feel like I'm trapped in Boy George's pants.
If we were to talk about the platformers, the 90s were the golden age. The era of the 1990s marked a period of significant innovation and creativity, particularly within the platforming genre. Initially defined by the likes of Super Mario Bros., Sonic the Hedgehog, Banjo-Kazooie of N64, Crash Bandicoot and Spyro of PlayStation, tons of 3D platformers were fun, memorable and sometimes scary. And this genre was one of my favorites when I was 5-6 years old, ever since I obtained the hidden fruit of consciousness. I've been playing this genre a lot, and I mean a lot, and today I would like to talk about one of the hidden gem platformers. You might have seen the recent news. Limited Run Games has announced a remaster of long-forgotten GEX series. And as soon as I learned about this, I played all 3 GEX games, and today I would like to talk about the GEX series in case you are interested in GEX or just curious.
I'm looking for a man called Scaramanga.
Crystal Dynamics' first entry in this series, titled GEX, introduced a weird protagonist, or rather unorthodox. A television-obsessed gecko thrust into the bizarre media dimension to combat the villainous Rez, a cyborg-like parody of Darth Vader. Crystal Dynamics developed GEX during the golden age of 2D platformers, as GEX distinguished itself through its tongue-in-cheek humor and a unique thematic concept, as each level was a spoof of popular television tropes, from horror movies to cartoons and kung fu movies. The journey of GEX franchise from the release of the first game in 1995, followed by GEX Enter the Gecko in 1998, and GEX 3 Deep Cover Gecko in 1999. They all offer a unique yet bizarre experience full of TV tropes and even more bizarre GEX's one-liners. And just like Crash Bandicoot and Spyro, GEX series experience the same fate, as each experience evolves into something better. Like Crash Warped and Spyro the Year of the Dragon, GEX 3 Deep Cover Gecko offers the best experience with varied level designs and a good, charming ambience. But first, let's start with the first GEX experience. The first GEX experience is exceptionally rough, one of the roughest 2D side-scrolling platformers I have ever played even. The sprite-based graphics of GEX present detailed animations and vibrant backgrounds with challenging level design, as the developers effectively use the television teams to craft diverse visual environments that stood apart from the typical, generic settings of other platformers. But it's arguably not that bright when it comes to the gameplay, and of course the fun factor. Instead of simply transitioning from one natural landscape to another, GEX traverses into horror movie graveyards, kung fu dojos, and even Looney Tunes like cartoon atmosphere. While this approach made GEX unique, it was common for games of that era to have different settings for their levels. For instance, Earthworm Jim or Cool Spot would be the best examples. However, GEX's cultural references, parody and humor don't make the whole experience a cult classic. As a platformer of Sega Saturn, GEX can run, jump, use his tail as a whip to defeat his enemies, or as a spring to reach higher platforms. While these mechanics were comparable to other contemporary platformers, what set GEX apart was the mechanic of wall and ceiling climbing, making GEX unique in this aspect. This feature added an additional layer of complexity and presented amazing exploration and puzzle-solving possibilities within the levels. The whole GEX experience can take up to 3 to 4 hours if you're lucky. However, I'm sure you would waste a couple of hours at the last boss Rez, which is a parody of Star Wars V Empire Strikes Back. I would only recommend the first GEX if you are really interested in seeing how the series improved over the time, and hopefully this whole experience gets better with the remaster. Let's continue with the second installment that adapts the 3D platformer style. As the sequel to GEX, GEX Enter the Gecko marked the series' transition into 3D, reflecting a broader shift within the gaming industry inspired by games such as Super Mario 64. This move mirrored the growth in the television industry from 2D animation to more 3D animated shows. This transition to 3D allowed for a significant enhancement in the visual quality and complexity of level designs. Dynamic visual environment with polygonal graphics that surpass its predecessor in terms of details and scope, while the developers maintain the series' unique television concept. We have again horror-themed scary TV to Looney Tunes-styled cartoon ambience, kung fu areas, prehistoric channel, and science fiction-themed levels. I wouldn't say GEX Enter the Gecko offers a varied level design, but it sure feels more entertaining. As the levels became larger, exploration became a more integral part of the gameplay, and puzzle solving evolved to take advantage of the new 3D dimensional perspective. GEX Enter the Gecko's gameplay also evolved with the introduction of more varied movements such as swimming, bouncing, and karate kick. The tail whip mechanic was retained but updated for a 3D environment, while the karate kick of GEX is similar to Crash Bandicoot's slight jump mechanics while dealing damage. Moreover, the wall and ceiling climbing feature was implemented into the 3D space, setting the game apart from the most other 3D platformers of that time, including Super Mario 64 and Banjo-Kazooie. While the latter had a greater emphasis on exploration and puzzle solving within a fully interactive environment, Enter the Gecko managed to combine these aspects with its unique wall and ceiling climbing mechanics. By moving into 3D, GEX Enter the Gecko also embraced the narrative evolution taking place in video games at that time. This growth allowed GEX's unique sense of humor to be more fully realized through in-game cutscenes and dialogue, adding another level of depth to the series, especially building the fundamentals for its sequel, GEX 3 Deep Cover Gecko.
Hey you, I'm a walking Dutch oven.
These additions bolstered the game's overall appeal, as it distinguished itself from its rivals such as Crash Bandicoot, which, while visually innovative, lacked the same degree of narrative depth and character development. One of the most immediate distinguishing factors of GEX Enter the Gecko was its theme. Like its predecessor, GEX has more in-depth personality with GEX Enter the Gecko, while Super Mario 64 was largely silent and Banjo-Kazooie utilized its unique Banjo speak. GEX constantly provided cheesy one-liners throughout his journey, providing a level of narrative and character that was uncommon in platformers of that time. Yet this reliance on humor and pop culture references sometimes felt like a double-edged sword, contributing to the game's unique personality and dating it in modern audiences' eyes.
Look, I just wanted the gift shop and the bathroom.
In conclusion, while GEX Enter the Gecko faced fierce competition from various iconic platformers of the 90s, it still managed to distinguish itself through its unique theme, gameplay mechanics, and with its cheesy but memorable one-liners. Its blend of parody humor and traditional platforming mechanics made it a standout title. However, GEX series made its pinnacle with the third installment, Deep Cover Gecko. GEX 3 Deep Cover Gecko further refined the franchise's transition into 3D, with every level offering a unique ambience and concept, unlike Enter the Gecko's 5 different themes. Deep Cover Gecko has a wide range of level designs from Christmas to ancient Egypt, Greek mythology to fairy tale, 1930s gangsters, and even anime and superheroes. It somewhat rivals Crash Warped and Spyro the Year of the Dragon even. Like GEX Enter the Gecko, this game took significant strides in terms of visuals, gameplay, and level design, making it one of the most memorable entries in the series.
Take me to your lizard.
Visually, GEX 3 Deep Cover Gecko is not as charming as Crash Warped or Spyro the Year of the Dragon. On the contrary, its short draw distance creates an eerie ambience. However, it has more detailed character models than its predecessor, as its television theme was creatively extended to parodies of various movie genres. This allowed for a broad range of distinct, visually rich environments, from a snow-filled Christmas land to a military camp, even demonstrating a refined design approach that elevated the creative use of thematics in level design. The game's levels also provided a more comprehensive range of exploration and interactivity, reflecting a matured understanding of the potential of 3D platforming. Suppose I were to talk about its gameplay mechanics, well, in that case it's pretty similar to Enter the Gecko, but with some improvements. And one of those are these numerous costumes that grant GEX new abilities, adding further complexity to the gameplay. There are lots of minigames where GEX can operate a tank or snowboard to defeat Santa's evil elves, but again, feels inferior when compared to Crash Warped and Spyro the Year of the Dragon's minigames in my opinion. Compared to other contemporary platformers like Spyro the Dragon and Donkey Kong 64, Deep Cover Gecko held its own with its unique combination of mechanics, level design and humor, while Spyro presented a delightful open-world experience and Donkey Kong 64 offered a vast cast of characters with different abilities. I believe GEX's unique selling proposition remained its clever integration of the television and the film themes with platforming mechanics and its memorable protagonist, who is flirting with a former Playboy model, Marlis Andrada. I don't know why I played this when I was 6 or 7, but anyways. Crash Bandicoot Warped released in the same era as Deep Cover Gecko, and with its third installment, Crash Bandicoot has become a legendary PlayStation mascot. It offered a more refined 3D platforming experience with accurate controls, vibrant visuals and a time travel concept, while Deep Cover Gecko had more extensive and more varied levels. Crash Warped excelled in compact, tightly designed levels with a more consistent difficulty curve. Visually, Warped showcased a distinct, vibrant aesthetic that remains more memorable today. Furthermore, the game offered diverse gameplay styles like running, swimming and flying, making it a more versatile experience than Deep Cover Gecko. And if I were to compare it with Spyro the Year of the Dragon, Spyro's third game represented the pinnacle of Insomniac Games' Spyro trilogy. It was characterized by its open-world design, a contrast to the more linear levels of Deep Cover Gecko, as it allowed for extensive exploration and a more immersive experience full of different concepts, minigames and even 6 playable characters that surpassed both Crash Warped and Deep Cover Gecko. Visually, Year of the Dragon adopted a fantasy aesthetic that was more consistent and visually impressive than the parodic style of Deep Cover Gecko. Furthermore, Year of the Dragon featured a more nuanced narrative and a character development, areas where the GEX series often fell short due to its focus on humor and parody.
With my trusty magnifying glass, I can spend the entire day burning ants.
And in conclusion, while GEX series brought unique elements to the platformer genre, its transition to 3D was marked by some notable shortcomings. Deep Cover Gecko's humor and parodic level designs were, although unique, it was also its own flaw where it couldn't fully compensate for the issues in gameplay and the level design, and also by not creating a world of GEX with villains or side characters that would make the series more memorable. Yet I believe the GEX series remains an essential part of the platformer genre's history. It may be rough and a hidden gem and not be as popular as Mario, Banjo-Kazooie, Sonic the Hedgehog, Crash or Spyro. GEX's more mature design stands notable and carved a unique identity for the series. It may not be the best, but its concept and gameplay is fun and offer high replayability. And despite being often overshadowed by the large platformers of its time, the GEX series undeniably left a profound impact on the genre and continues to be fondly remembered by those who had the pleasure of guiding the wisecracking Gecko through his extraordinary adventures to defeat the media villain Rez to rescue a Playboy model turned into a super agent. GEX has been one of the pillars of Crystal Dynamics, alongside Legacy of Kain Soul Riva and Akuji the Heartless. I always loved their dark platformer experiences, and I'm interested in GEX's remaster and revival, and I hope it somehow revives GEX franchise as well, and I think we need more ongoing platformer experiences other than Crash Bandicoot. And as always, thanks for watching today's video. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter and subscribe to my channel for more content. Cheers!